And now here's Ravi Zacharias with the second part of his message, Is Faith Delusional?
Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, and Sam Harris had better beware, because the one question they're raising against the existence of God is that there's so much of evil in this world, which is such a self-defeating argument. I was in Minnesota 3 days ago, and the head of the Atheistic Association Minneapolis came, and he was taking me on toe-to-toe. And the angriest he became was when he was talking about God. God is the greatest abortionist. I said, what's wrong with that? I said, what's wrong with that? You just said that you deny anything of transcendent value except freedom. What's wrong with that? The anger with which they speak about God, you would not speak against a tooth fairy. Something in the back of the minds tell them he's real and we're angry. And so, as I pull it together, I want to say this. It better beware of the human condition. Here's what Christopher Hitchens says. How much self-respect must be sacrificed in order that one may squirm continually in an awareness of one's own sin? I don't know why they say it in such a complicated manner, but here's what he says. How much self-respect must be sacrificed in order that one may squirm continually in an awareness of one's own sin? What he's really saying is, why do I have to sacrifice all this self-respect of mine to confess my sin? Berlinski says the honest answer to Mr. Hitchens is that for most of us, self-respect is possible only if the squirming is considerable. So I take you to the person of Jesus, and I show you what it is that he had to say about evil. Please follow me. Jesus described himself in the following titles. The first is the Son of David. This is an incredible title, and I'll just breeze through these ideas. One of the chapters that tells us about this is when a blind man, you know, the Bible is remarkable in what it says and what it doesn't say. It tells us there was a man blind from birth. His name was Bartimaeus. Do you realize when you read that, he has no name? He's the son of Timaeus. He has no name. Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. The only thing the Bible tells us about him is these two things. He's the son of Timaeus and he's blind. And then he hears the patter of feet. Somebody has told him. The miracle worker, the Messiah, is coming. And with that extrasensory capacity of his hearing, he hears the crowd beginning to roar. He knows he's coming close. And above the din, if anyone is born in the east, you can hear it. The sound of a blind man calling for alms. But here he's claiming something else. He screams out, Jesus, son of David, have mercy upon me. Jesus walks over to him and says, what do you want from me? He says, Rabbi, I want to see. I want to see. Jesus looks at him and pays him the compliment of his individuality, which had never been probably paid before. He says, great is your faith. Your faith has made you whole. And he gives the man back his sight. Here is the point of that faith. It was based on his knowledge that this man had done the miracles, that he was the son of David in prophecy. And what is remarkable for me is when Jesus affirms him in his individuality, two things happen here. The great gift that Jesus gives to you and me is that individual respect and individual worth. I am the son of my Father. What a great privilege it is. But I have my own identity, my own DNA. God has made me an individual. And when by faith at the age of 17 on a bed of suicide, I committed my life to Christ, the answer that God gave to me was not because of the faith of my father, but it was because of the faith that I had placed in him. When you place that trust in him personally, he will affirm you and help you to redefine everything and see in a way you'd never seen before. See in a way you'd never seen before. But here's the point I want to make. Do you know what atheists tell us about the heinousness of theism? Listen to what this statement is by Friedrich Nietzsche. Equality is a lie concocted by inferior people who arrange themselves in herds to overpower those who are naturally superior to them. The morality of equal rights is herd morality because it opposes the cultivation of superior individuals. It leads to the corruption of the human species. Mr. Dawkins may talk of all of the horrific things that religion has done. Nietzsche's writings were held by Hitler. Hitler personally presented it to Mussolini and to Stalin, and the idea of equal rights, equal humanity was anathema to the Nazi mind. They didn't believe humanity was equal. So those of you who think the scientists and their secularism are leading you into a utopia, this is the underpinning of one of those philosophers. His name is Nietzsche, who ultimately leads in his own thinking to ethnic superiority, to cultural superiority. It was Darwin himself and others who mused and wondered if their scientific theories were taken into metaphysical extrapolations, whether we would see violence unparalleled. Think of all the killings that have gone on because of ethnic superiority. Think of all the pain that has been inflicted because of ethnic superiority. I sat next to a high-ranking naval officer not far from here just a little while ago, and he told me that he remembers the days of serious, dark, foreboding discrimination. There he was with his medals, handsome gentleman, powerfully placed. He placed it on the heels. Brother Johnny, my dear friend Johnny Hunt is here. It happened, Johnny, in Jacksonville, when the two young guys who are up for one of them, I think Tebow was one of them. I don't follow college football that much, forgive me. But I follow cricket, and that's totally foreign for you. But these two young guys were given an award because of how high they are placed in college football. One of them supposed to go very high in the draft. But after that, the pastor did something extraordinary. He brought these two African-American gentlemen whose college had won a championship in the 50s. And no recognition had been given to them then. And the pastor called these two gentlemen up, and these two young boys took a football and presented it to each of them. And as they embraced one another and the audience rose to the feet, this naval officer looked at the pastor and said, "Thank you for doing that. God has been at work in America over the past few decades." And to see all the rooting out and the doing away of all the ethnic superiority, he said, is a proof that God is at work, working away in our land. One of the things that Christopher Hitchens hates to admit is that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Christian. Why would he, when Christopher Hitchens has referred to Mother Teresa as one of the most dangerous human beings that has ever come onto this planet? Son of David, Jesus is the Lord over all of ethnicity, over all of culture. But then he refers to himself as the Son of Man. And I just want to, this is my major point, I'd like to close, my time is gone. He refers to himself as the Son of Man 80 of the 82 times in the New Testament. Now here's what I want to tell you. After they recognized him as the Son of Man, I can't go into the theological backdrop of this, he started to tell them that he was headed to the cross, of what manner of death he was going to die. What manner of death he was going to die. You see, to them the Son of Man was going to be a triumphant demagogic figure. Jesus changed that and said, no, he told them of the manner in which he was going to be suffering at the hands of humanity after they recognized him as the Son of Man. Here's a point I want to make in a hurry. Please follow. This is a linchpin argument for me. Richard Dawkins was asked the question very plainly what he thought about God. You've heard this. It is quoted in many books, and David Aikman in his book. Listen to this, it's a mouthful. What do I think about God? The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it. A petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak. A vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser. A misogynistic, homophobic racist. Infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully. I guess he doesn't like God. Listen to it. He's jealous, petty, unjust, unforgiving, vindictive, bloodthirsty, misogynistic, homophobic, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully. Now, he's just finished telling us he's a fictional character. That's half of the point. The other half of the point is when you ask him what he thinks of humanity, he goes on to say that he believes basically in the goodness of humanity without God watching over. Now, I don't know if I'm confused or he is. If God doesn't exist and all these descriptions apply, who did these things? Person is deluded when they believe something contrary to all the evidence. Who is deluded? Who wrote the Old Testament if God didn't inspire the words? Humanity. That would be his answer. Then who ordered all those things? Humanity. Why on earth are you so big on humanity and so small on God when humanity manufactured the God that you deny? Has anybody asked him this question? Let me read this, move to my final two statements here. In the First World War, humanity killed 15 million. Russian Civil War, 9 million. Stalin's regime, 20 million. Second World War, 55 million. Chinese Civil War, 2.5 million. People's Republic of China under Mao Zedong, 40 million. Tibet and still counting, 600,000. Congo Free State, 8 million. Mexico, 1910 to 1920, 1 million. Turkish massacres of Armenians in 1915 to 1923, 1.5 million. China, 1917 to 1928, 800,000. Chinese nationalist era, 3.1 million. Korean War, 2.8 million. North Korea, 2 million. Rwanda and Burundi, 1.35 million. Second Indochina War, 3.5 million. Ethiopia, 400,000. Nigeria, 1 million. Bangladesh, 1.25 million. Cambodia, Khmer Rouge, 1.65 million. I have 2 pages of statistics here that I could read for you. Berlinski ends that section by saying this: in considering the assessment that we are better off than we were before, the only conclusion one can profitably draw is that such an excess of stupidity is not often found in nature itself. The Son of David, the Son of Man. Thirdly, I bring to you the Son of God. Here he brings to you carefully and closely the relationship. God is a being in relationship. And what God wants from you and me is a relationship with him that then brings us into relationship with our fellow human beings. I have never had more love and respect for humanity, and my love for humanity is based entirely upon my love for God, who created us in his image. Moses wrote 613 laws. David reduced it to 15. Somebody else to 11. Micah to 6. Someone else to 3. Jesus reduced it, no, not to one, he reduced it to two. That you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength and all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. On these two hang all of the laws and the prophets. Did you hear that? He told me to love him with all my heart and soul and mind and strength, and my neighbor as myself. On these two pegs hang the entire corpus of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of laws. That challenge given by God shows me of his love for you and for me. You know, the Bible talks about the Trinity. Berlinski says light is both particles and waves in the famous debate that Einstein had with a fellow scientist. They couldn't conclude it. They agreed that light shows both the properties of particles and waves, and so they call it a wavicle. The secular Jew said, has it occurred to anybody that for the Christian might not be a problem because of the Trinity? That God can be one and three at the same time, if light can be a particle and a wave at the same time. If you take a woman who's just been impregnated by her husband, within that moment of conception, even unknown to her, you've got her, you've got the husband's DNA in her very blood there flowing, and then you've got that little child. Three entities in one being, in an incredible way and a mystery. We think we understand it. We really don't. We just describe it. Even one woman can be three persons, distinctive as it were. Is it impossible for God to be three persons in one essence in an infinite scale of transcending all of humanity?